This is Ready, Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than host, as I too am traveling, learning, and supporting others on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy Seawright, and this is Ready, Set Reiki. Hello, Reiki family. Reiki blessings to you, one and all. Another amazing journey. But before we begin, I have to tell you about a certain place on Facebook, and that is the Reiki Business Collective. Christian Stone is our leader here in sharing, supporting, and serving, and is connecting with your Reiki business community. Now, as you go on this journey, I don't ever want you to ever feel that you are alone, and know there are always beautiful and wonderful places for you to land. And here is a great place to start. No matter where you are on your business journey, maybe you're thinking, oh, business, I don't even think about that. But this is a great place just to join and observe, share, and support. So check it out. It costs $0 to join. Wonderful and amazing Facebook group. Now, back to our journey. Today's journey will help you grow as a Reiki pro. So let me tell you all about my fabulous guest. Now, Carrie Varela is the founder of Reiki Healing Society and co-host of the Reiki Women podcast. She is also the creator of GoPro, a Reiki mentorship program. She is a Reiki practitioner, Reiki teacher, yoga instructor, Vedic astrologer, mother, mystic, and modern day healer. She inspires people to connect with spirit, nature, and their truest essence through Reiki, yoga, and Vedic astrology. And she has the privilege to study many different lineages of Reiki. Now, in 2003, she traveled to Japan to tour the sacred sites of Reiki, an experience that was both incredible and life-changing. Over 15 years of experience as a solo practitioner and a woman-owned business owner, she is passionate about supporting emerging and existing Reiki professionals to help them navigate through this creative process of building a thriving Reiki business. She believes that maintaining courage, joy, and resilience comes more easily when you have the right support. With guidance, inspiration, and community, your growth as a Reiki pro is only a matter of time. So let's get a really warm Ready, Set, Reiki welcome to Carrie. Hello, hello.
Hi.
So excited to have you on the journey, listening to your podcast. And we're kind of in similar circles here. We always seem to be a few degrees apart. You as a Reiki teacher and a yoga teacher. So we have that nice connection here. So thank
Yes.
you for joining me. So let's get right off on our journey. I just told our listeners just a little bit about you, but I know there is so much more. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I just first of all want to say thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and kudos to 3 years of Ready Set Reiki. That's amazing. My podcast, Reiki Women Podcast, is also circling on our 3rd year and I think you just passed your 200th episode, and we're about to pass our 200th episode, so that's pretty exciting.
I love it. Yay.
Yeah. Um, I was born and raised in Colorado and lived there most of my life. And that's where I found Reiki. And I found Reiki, I had a couple experiences of it, but it really came to me right after I completed a yoga teacher training. And one of my first yoga students was a Reiki practitioner and eventually taught me Reiki. And so I learned from her, and then it just sparked just so much healing and life-changing magic that really has shaped my life. And I'm so grateful for her and the practice of Reiki.
Beautiful.
And yeah. Mhm.
I love it. So it always a wonderful modality to merge with yoga, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, to me, it's like yin and yang. Energy work can be really like a little bit like ungrounding sometimes, and like, urethral and light, and not always, of course. But there's nothing like a plank to bring you back to your body. Just do a plank for 30 seconds and you're like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Nirvasana, right? That's
Yeah.
what gets them, right?
Yeah. Something like that, anything like that. But certainly, like a shavasana after a yoga class, I feel like is this a really good analogy of what a Reiki session can feel like.
Beautiful. Makes me think of a shirt I just saw. I'm here for the planks.
Ah, all right.
Yeah,
They're nuts about their planks. Yes, it's a humbling pose, but a good
it is
pose for sure.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. So, would you say that you found Reiki or Reiki found you?
I say that Reiki found me, and it's an interesting question, kind of a paradox, and um, but from the yogic traditions that I've studied, it's actually very clear that our gifts and wisdom find us, and our path finds us in life, and that we should just be trusting the universe, trusting the process and growth of life, that the right things will come to us. And our job is, we always have to take action, but we have to be open, right, to recognize when the right things are coming into our life, and follow that inspiration. But that was certainly the way I felt with Reiki. Reiki found me, or I mean, I guess I've always questioned that, but I really came to the place where trusting that Reiki was the right thing for me. And I feel like I've had that confirmation. Several times in my life. So it's really beautiful when that happens.
Beautiful. You said that you studied multiple systems. What was the first system that you studied?
I first studied Yusui Tibetan Reiki. So I learned all levels, and I learned a couple of Tibetan symbols that have been added to the system of Reiki. And they're very interesting. I have a background in anthropology, and so I really wanted to study more about the Tibetan symbols. And then ultimately, I ended up studying with William Lee Rand, and I studied with him. I think I was like the third or fourth training he had after he received that transmission of holy fire. Um, so he hadn't even been announcing it or talking about it, but it was really interesting because I came to his course to want to learn more about the Tibetan symbols that had
Right.
been incorporated into Reiki at that time, especially in his lineage. And he, like, the first thing was like, this is a new lineage of Reiki. You're going to learn holy fire. We're removing the Tibetan symbols. And yeah, I had been just kind of a part of that first cohort of people who learned holy fire. So that was really interesting.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it was a
Mhm.
story that we've heard over and over and over again, right? In the manual and so forth. So beautiful. So
Mhm.
here you are, you're in your journey here, founder of the Reiki Healing Society, co host of the Reiki Women podcast, and creator of the GoPro Reiki membership program. As you're here now, as you're out navigating through this beautiful modality of Reiki, what are some of the misconceptions that you hear about Reiki?
I think a big misconception often is that Reiki is like equivalent to spiritual mediumship. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, Reiki like will channel your angels and guides," and that's just something that I hear a lot. And it's something that I actually have no problem at all with spiritual mediumship. I know several people who are very gifted in the realm of spiritual mediumship. I think it's a beautiful thing and very helpful. Um, but I don't think that Reiki really like fits firmly into that box of spiritual mediumship. I think Reiki fits more into the box of energy healing. And because Reiki comes from a spiritual source, it might include some gifts of wisdom, which can come through in a lot of different ways. It comes through in words and colors and images, um, and other, really profound spiritual experiences. But I don't think that the Reiki courses themselves set up practitioners well enough to step into the role of spiritual mediumship. And so I always encourage people who feel like they really want to develop that gift to continue to study. And I think that Reiki really supports people who are working in those realms. but they're not the same thing. So that's one of the big misconceptions that I often talk about.
Right. Now, as you're here navigating through Reiki here, are you finding a division between individuals who believe that Reiki cannot be done online versus people that are open to having it done online, meaning the attunement or placement?
Yeah, so I didn't teach Reiki online. So, prior to COVID, there was a really kind of community-wide taboo around online courses and not necessarily online treatments or just distant Reiki treatments, because we know that that's a tenet, a part of the Reiki practice. And so I kind of, didn't know what to do about that online thing, because after COVID, we kind of loosened up some of those restrictions and had healthy conversations about whether or not that was, exact what is necessary in order to, have a solid experience of receiving Reiki through a training. If that can be done, can it be transmitted online? Can it be transmitted in person better? Um, so ultimately, I offer kind of a unique approach to teaching Reiki. And so ultimately felt like it was important for me to have that accessible to a broader base of clients, and just being open to the global community as to whoever wanted to learn Reiki. And so I have been offering Reiki courses online. And I offer them to beginners, but oftentimes I also offer them to people who've studied Reiki with different lineages, who want a different approach, or wanting to understand Reiki from the way I see it, or the 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 study that I've offered or I've done in the world of Reiki. Trying to be humble about that, because I feel very humble about Reiki, and I'm just kind of a Reiki geek, really.
Right.
So if anyone wants to geek out about Reiki with me, then I'm happy to do that. We're having a geeky moment today, Tracy, I think.
I love
happy, happy
it.
about that. But
We talk about it.
um, yeah, so to me, it's really about the client, or the student. I want them to feel confident. I want them to develop a sense of confidence. I think there's nothing more disempowering than taking a Reiki course and leaving it and being like, what the heck was that? I don't even know what I did and what I learned or whatever. But now, I can do Reiki, but not feeling confident to use it. So I just always want to ensure that's not how my clients walk away from a course. And if they feel more confident by doing it in person, then I'm going to encourage them to go that route. If they feel a lot of confidence working with me online, then I am more than happy to share.
Right, right. I was just talking about this with my student and how she was grateful for the blessing of being able to connect online. She had found me on Insight Timer and she knew she wanted to train with me, but she lives on the East Coast and I live here in El Paso, Texas. And what a way we can come together and I can help guide her and teach her. So that's always as I read some of the comments where individuals are so stern and like, nope, this is one way, it is done one way. And then you have others that are so open to let it be up to the client, really, what's best for the client. Maybe it's too difficult to travel or too expensive, not accessible, right? So we leave it down to them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be really challenging, and there's something really nice about just like, if you're busy, have kids, have a full-time job, any of the many different things that life puts on our plate, like to be able to just pop open your computer and like boom, be there and study with somebody, I think is a really
Right.
it's a blessing of modernity, so we should probably, you know, be open to it.
Right. I always
Mhm.
ask the question, and I asked this once in a group, and I had said, if Azui was alive today, would he have a podcast? Would he have a YouTube channel? Right. And it just went nuts. People were like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, but he was guided by the energy. We don't know. And then they brought up about the Gakkai. Yeah, but there's been several presidents who, what would Azui done at this time if he was here
Mhm.
in 2026? Right.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think that's really
Yeah.
insightful, and we know that Usui only taught really a Japanese audience
Yeah.
when he taught Reiki. And so it'd be very interesting to see too, like what he would have thought was important to share with a Western audience or somebody from a different culture than his own.
Yeah. But it's something to think about, right, with modern times.
Absolutely.
So, what do you wish your younger self knew about Reiki?
Hmm. I think that that's a good question. I think I would have just really wished to spend more time like relaxing and enjoying the journey
Mm,
instead of worrying and being so concerned and about, where this was taking me. Because it is a spiritual journey, and I think there's a big part of me that like longs for, since I've been doing this as my career path for 15 years, like I long for a paid time off vacation or like a company match, things like that. And I don't have that with Reiki. So sometimes my mind can get really stuck in a worried mindset about that. But um Reiki has helped me manifest amazing things in my life, and I'm so grateful for it. And I wouldn't be the same person that I am without Reiki in my life. And so I just wake up every day grateful for it. And I have a little kiddo asking me about something. Okay, baby, I'm on my call right now, so I can't help you with it right now. Why don't you can you find something else to do? Okay, great. I forgot to tell you that I have kids at home, so it will be an interesting live experience, but
when it is time for you to get an energetic tune up, what are some qualities that you look for
Mm.
in a practitioner?
I just, I look for somebody. I usually want to feel a sense that Reiki is guiding me to the right person, right? And so if I feel drawn to somebody's work, I just always want to feel there's like a sync, like yeah, like a green light, go, like let's engage in that kind of relationship with a person. So I have the opportunity to be in touch with so many amazing and gifted spiritual people. I'm always so curious about how they approach their work. And there's probably just actually, I mean, I feel so blessed. I have more people in my life that I could receive from than I probably need. So I also just sometimes have to be like, it's nothing personal with you, but right now, I getting my self-care, taken care of through a specific person, or I'm doing it in a certain way. But I change it up quite a bit, for myself. I don't always go to the same person, and I always don't work with the same modality. So sometimes I do acupuncture, sometimes I do Reiki, sometimes I do massage or body work, sometimes I do counseling, sometimes I do spiritual mediumship. There's just a lot of different things that coaching. I've worked with coaches, so I always just love, 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 love working with practitioners who have developed themselves as healers, and they always have something wise to share with me. So
Beautiful. 15 years of experience, founder of the GoPro Reiki membership program. What advice would you give to someone who's just entering this spiritual work?
well, I'd say that Reiki chose you, or your work is choosing you, right? And that it's an invitation. It might seem like a challenge or a problem, but it's really an opportunity. It's an opportunity to step into a new role. It's an opportunity to expand yourself. And so a lot of times when I work with my mentorship clients, they find certain aspects of building a Reiki business very easy and surprisingly easy. They're like, oh, wow, that was much easier than I ever thought it was going to be. Like, whether it be like creating more reels on Instagram or TikTok, or just other surprising aspects of the business. But then there's typically one or two places where it is hard. It is hard. It's deep internal work where you kind of have to confront um places where you feel disempowered, places where you don't feel like strong inside of yourself, or it asks you to take on a new skill that is not easy to take on. I know for me, it was writing. Writing was always just like, it's something that I wanted to learn, like, and I felt like, oh, like I could write, in my 20s or whatever. I was like, I could write a book one day. I can really see myself like writing more and all this. And now I write quite a bit for what I do, but it never comes easy. I have to work at it. And I often tend to be really self-judgmental and self-critical about the writing that I do. But then actually, there's times where I can look back at the work that I've done and be like, damn, Carrie, that was really good. Like it was really good. Good job. And so I kind of applaud myself. And so I always love it when my mentorship clients kind of get into those sticky places. And as long as they're willing to persevere through it, they usually gain something really, really amazing from it. And they can be really proud of all they did.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And talking about that book you wanted to write, what books do you recommend?
What books do I recommend? Okay, well, one of my favorite books about the system of Reiki is The Japanese Art of Reiki. It's written by Bronwyn and Franz Stein. And it's really the first chapter that is so helpful because it gives you such an incredible view into the Japanese culture and the elements of the Japanese culture that really came in to the practice of Reiki, and gives you actually a really different and radical um, way of understanding how Reiki may have been developed, maybe a different perspective than we often see. One of the things that they found in their research is that there's a potential that Yasui was teaching the Reiki precepts up to 10 years prior to his realization on Mount Karama, which is really interesting. I'm not sure if that's true or not. There's been some debate, some fairly geeky Reiki debate, whether or not he started teaching Reiki or something akin to the precepts at least earlier than Reiki. But I actually had a chance to talk to Bronwyn Logan about it. And she said, things just don't happen overnight. And I think that that's really true. When you think of like really something, a big breakthrough happens, it comes from the small efforts that you make day by day, and like they culminate, and then boof, something really big comes of it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And, as we have our manuals out there in the world with Justin B. Stein releasing some information, on Azui Sensei's resume, it's going to shift a little bit our history and our writing. So it should be fascinating to see when the manuals change what's written there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should change the history when we know better,
Mm.
and not be stuck in a certain way of understanding things, but be willing to be open and informed when new information comes our way.
Right.
Um, when I was on Mount Karama, I ran into somebody, Olaf Braun, who's a Reiki historian. I think he's German. And he was there on the mountain with us, and he was like, I'm going to show you something really special. And we're like, oh, what? And he wouldn't let us take a picture of it, but he pulled it out, and it looked like he thinks that it is one of a copy of the precepts written by Usui
Oh,
that he had discovered in his research. So we just got to see that and just have the energy of that kind of bask with us. That was a really special moment.
beautiful, beautiful. I think I'm supposed to go next year to Japan with Justin B. Stein's tour. So,
Amazing. Oh, it's such a good thing to do.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what services do you offer? Do you offer classes, events, trainings?
Yeah, so I offer so many different things. My Reiki business is such a creative outlet for me, and I love that about it. So it's always changing. There's always something new, but I have a course that I call Financial Foundations: Developing 7 Income Streams for Healing Arts Professionals. And so in that course, what I try to guide you through is how to develop up to 7 income streams. But here's the thing, if you're a very creative person or if you learned a lot of modalities, I've met so many people who are like, I got more than seven income streams, right? Like there's always something, we always have so many ideas, but maybe not as much time in the day to actually implement those ideas. Um, so I typically use the structure of seven income streams. I don't always have all seven of them going at once. Usually it's throughout the year, and then certain things kind of highlight more during certain times and so forth. But the main income streams are Reiki treatments. So I offer Reiki treatments weekly, online and in person. I offer Reiki courses. So I'm trying to streamline how I offer them, but typically 2 or 3 times a year I'll offer public courses. And then I often do one-to-one trainings with folks as well. Um, I teach yoga classes. I have 3 yoga classes on my schedule right now. And I just love teaching yoga and need to move my body that way. So it's so nice to have that in my flow. I make handcrafted malas. Malas are meditative tools, so you can use a mala. It's a necklace that I make with crystal or gemstone beads. So I sell them at several retailers in my area, and then I sell them online and things like that. So I'm always making a mala in the evening or whatever, or yeah, for friends and things like that. Um, and then, of course, the GoPro with Reiki mentorship program. So that's been a big birthing baby process, but it's a 12-month container. I'm thinking about changing it the next time I offer a new class in the mentorship program, but it's really meant to help you, move systematically through the process of building a Reiki business, and it's not something you can do overnight. So I like to have that longer container. I've done tons of business courses with like 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever. And it's like I get so busy doing this thing that I have no time to implement what they are teaching me.
Yeah.
And then, a part of that is just a bunch of different offerings I've been creating to help people work into, building their Reiki business or healing arts business. And then my new baby on top of all of this is Vedic astrology. So I've been studying Vedic astrology now for a couple years, and started offering readings. And so looking deeply into people's charts and helping them kind of figure themselves out from the cosmos. It's quite exciting. So
Beautiful. Where can we find you if we want to connect with you?
yeah, you can find me on the ReikiHealingSociety.com, and all things Reiki Healing Society. So I have Instagram, Reiki Healing Society. I have a website, the Reiki Healing Society, and I also have a Facebook group called the Reiki Healing Society Training and Mentorship for Reiki Professionals. And it's been really exciting. That group has really started to grow recently, and we just went over 1,000 members. And I just let in like 25 people just today, and it's like been like a day since I let people in. So it's been really exciting to see that group growing.
Beautiful. Do you offer your yoga classes online or in person?
I mostly offer my yoga classes in person. I really want to teach more online. It's just a factor of time, energy, and I have a few pre-recorded classes that I've taught before. And I really want to open that up, but it's not here yet. So
Right.
maybe one day.
And you have a podcast. Where can we find that?
Oh, yes. Well, if you ever want to just geek out about Reiki, find us at the Reiki Women podcast. That's a podcast that I am the co-host along with Michaela Daystar and Bronwyn Logan. And we offer, a unique perspective in the world of Reiki, really speaking to Reiki from its Japanese origins. But beyond that, our podcast is really about amplifying women's voices within Reiki. And Reiki is predominantly practiced by women. And yet it seems that women aren't often in the place of leadership within Reiki communities, although I think that's changing. And yeah, I think as women Reiki practitioners, we have unique challenges that we face, and so it's a space where we talk about all of those things. And it's not just for women. Just as a reminder, it's not for women. It's actually for anybody. Um, and it encourages us to listen to women, to learn from women, because we have so much to share.
Beautiful. And there's something of a summit, I believe, in April.
What's that? Well, it's something that you are part of, Tracy, too. So, yes, our good friend Christian Stone is offering our third annual, I think, Reiki Business Summit. And that is such a fun gathering. It's a weekend-long summit. There's going to be talks from Mary Raposo. In fact, me and Mary Raposo are going to be talking about attracting your ideal clients. Ricky Friedman's going to be there. Kathleen Johnson, Tracy Seawright is there. Pam Allen LeBlanc and Karen Kegg, and of course, Christian Stone. What's your topic, Tracy? I forget.
Mine is networking. Pam and I will be talking about networking.
Oh, so good. So
Yeah.
good. I love networking. It's so fun.
Yeah. And fun fact, Karen Kegg is my International Center of Reiki mentor.
Oh, amazing. She's a great mentor. Oh my gosh, I love her. She
Yeah.
has the best sense of humor. And I swear to God, if you can't have a sense of humor in healing,
Right.
you've lost the point. So whenever I like listen to her, she always just cracks me up and it just makes me so happy. So I can't wait to learn from her.
Beautiful. All right. Well,
Mhm.
that ends the first part of our journey. I'm going to guide you to the second part, which are questions from listeners and from Reiki students. So here we go. Number one, why do you no longer feel called to be a Reiki master or to use the term master?
Yeah, so I never really felt completely comfortable with the term. I technically became a Reiki master. I took my first Reiki 3 course in 2010, I want to say. And like I was like, "Oh my God, I'm a Reiki master." But it didn't really mean anything, and that kind of just felt a little cliche. And I ultimately realized that I wasn't really a Reiki master in the full sense of the word until 2014 when I taught a first class of 2 Reiki 3 students. So that technically, I believe, is when you can call yourself a Reiki master. So I adopted the term, even though it didn't feel like the greatest, but primarily because it was just the status quo within the Reiki community. In 2020, there was a lot happening in the world. COVID, a lot of other different things, but within my yoga community in particular, there was a lot of discussion, conversation, and even conflict around the idea of cultural and spiritual appropriation within yoga and what that might mean. What it means when we use a healing art that comes from another culture, in particular ones that have been colonized. And ultimately, it inspired me to take a course on decolonizing my yoga practice. And I felt that that was so interesting and have been using and in infusing principles of decolonization into my work ever since then. But I also felt it was very relevant to the conversation around Reiki. And so one of the things within decolonization, it asks us to kind of question titles, roles, anything that kind of brings up the nature of hierarchy or even superiority and why. And so I kind of dove a little bit deeper into this Reiki master thing because I felt like it didn't really resonate with my relationship with Reiki either. That was kind of the rub there. Was like I didn't feel like I was a Reiki master or that master was the appropriate term for my relationship with Reiki. Mastery feels very rigid, domineering, and controlling. And for me, Reiki is more inspiring and meditative and open and freedom loving and freedom giving. We've probably heard the debate, oh, well, it's not that Reiki master, you were a Reiki master, it's that Reiki masters us. I don't like that either. Yeah, I mean, I'm a traditionalist by nature, but I'm also not one that likes rules or rigidity. And I think that a real spiritual practice should be empowering. It should be uplifting to ourselves, but without power over other people. And I also think that my relationship with Reiki, it felt, I didn't want to think of Reiki mastering me. I wanted to think of like Reiki empowering me, Reiki opening me up to possibility and freedom and right relationship. And that actually it gives me more freedom to choose than having to follow the really rigid way of being, that I actually get to listen to my heart's wants and desires, and that's important, and very meaningful spiritually. So um, lately I've been thinking about, what if we just called ourselves Reiki magicians?
Right.
I don't know what you think about that, Tracy, but
Right.
it
Right.
feels like more like it's just more light. It's more I don't know. And anyway, so I dive deeper into the history of this. And it turns out that, the term Reiki master is really imported into the practice of Reiki through Chijiro Hayashi sensei and Hayao Takada sensei. And they were, of course, these pioneers that brought Reiki to the West.
Mhm.
And I think that they really had to use terms like that to kind of confront some of the rigidity in the American culture around cultures and spiritualities outside of the Christian or Judeo-Christian belief system. And so we know that there's documents from Takata saying, she had to kind of strip out some of the Japanese language and spirituality from the practice of Reiki in order to how it be more palatable to a Western mind. Now, that's what she had to do in the 1930s and 40s, and also in the face of World War II,
Yeah.
right? And so that was a huge deal for her, that she was standing there out there as a Japanese American person in the time of World War II, where Japanese people were in internment camps
Hmm.
and, presenting this really amazing healing art from Japan. So I have all kinds of respect for Takata. I think of her as just an absolute pioneer in the system of Reiki and the lineage of Reiki. But nevertheless, nowadays we get to reflect on and think about these words. Are they really what we feel are sit at the heart of our spiritual practice? And I think it's also problematic when we talk about ourselves as Reiki masters to our students, because suddenly we put ourselves on a pedestal as elevated above them, telling them how they should think, act, or be in relationship with a certain, either the practice of Reiki or with themselves. And it can create hierarchy and power dynamics. And it just inherently does, I think. It just inherently does. And so I wrote a blog all about this, why I no longer call myself a Reiki master. I have several points in there, and just invite us to reflect on, is there a better term that we can use? And is the word master really appropriate in a spiritual community?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I've been using like energy coordinator lately.
Energy coordinates is fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of creativity, and I think it's a good thing to ask ourselves, well, what title actually really, really resonates with
Right.
my relationship with Reiki? How do I want to relate? And you talk about, oh, I'm a guide here on this podcast. I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's what you feel, right? And um, so it allows for more of that diversity and self-expression, and hopefully some right relationship too. Because I know for me, when I would call myself a Reiki master, it gave me a lot more anxiety and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I think that was exactly what Takato had to face too. And so she had to like really elevate herself as this enlightened being or this master of this healing art.
Sure.
And I think she was, no doubt. But I don't know if we need to broadcast that. I don't know.
Right. Right. It's
Yeah.
really something to ponder. I mean, there are quite a lot of Reiki masters out there now. I was talking a story about how a gentleman watched a YouTube video And in 20 minutes, he thought he was a Reiki master. And he went here and taught some of the people at the business and said, I can attune you. I'm a Reiki master, thinking from 20 minutes of a YouTube video. So it's quite interesting.
Well, yeah. And that might relate. I think I know what the next question is. So maybe I'll feed that into
Oh,
into the next question.
the next question is you just mentioned it that you took a course on it. Why is spiritual and cultural appropriation an important issue in the world of Reiki?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quote of what spiritual and cultural appropriation is. It's a power dynamic that members of a dominant culture take elements from a culture of people who've been systemically oppressed by that dominant group. And cultural appropriation is about ignorance, where members of a dominant culture may unknowingly be commodifying or exploiting aspects of a marginalized culture without fully understanding the historical, social, spiritual significance of that healing modality. And that commodification can perpetuate stereotypes, perpetuate racism, trivialize sacred practices, and create erasure of cultural heritage for oppressed groups. So, to come back to what you were just saying about somebody taking a 20-minute course on Reiki and then now calling themselves a Reiki master, that person, first of all, I mean, it takes a lot of bravery to take something for 20 minutes and feel like you've mastered it and that you have the capacity to teach other people what it is. That is not my relationship with Reiki, or my experience with Reiki is that Reiki and a Reiki course is a gateway into learning Reiki, to working with the energy, applying it in my life first and foremost. And then, for some people they feel inspired to share it with others. But for me as a practitioner, I'm always learning and growing. There's still so much to learn about Reiki, even though it's a very simple technique,
Mhm.
and can be easily learned in a weekend. At least what I call it is like, it's kind of like poker. You can learn how to play poker pretty quickly, but it takes a lifetime, never to master it, but to always be a perpetual student of it.
Right, right. And we're definitely aware of this in the yoga world and super sensitive. I had worked with a woman from India, and when I was teaching yoga quite a few years ago, to say namaste at the end. I don't say namaste anymore at the end of
Mhm.
class. I always, say Om Shanti Om. I was doing a Kundalini practice, and I told them, I don't feel comfortable wearing the turban. You'll see many people wearing it, but I just didn't feel comfortable wearing it
Mhm.
because studying that through my teacher and that lineage, I thought, you know what, this is what you'll see. It's great to cover the head, especially with energy. You want to protect your crown, but I'm not going to wear that because you're just mindful of things, this
Mhm.
awareness
Mhm.
of just being appropriate and honoring that culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's really the a good stepping stone is being aware of the culture and actively be working on um noticing and being mindful of where we're ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're ignorant, we work hard to learn more so that we have a greater capacity to understand.
Right, right. And I was just talking to my yoga class last week about how it's kind of been whitewashed in a way where it's now about fitness and getting into all of these kind of shapes. And it was really about calming the fluctuations of the mind, and that you have these
Mm.
8 limbs and all this history behind it. So don't necessarily focus too much on the asana, because that's the third limb, right? You have all these
Mhm.
yamas, and all these other things to incorporate as well, but they're coming thinking, what they see, like, oh, I gotta go in this way, and these misconceptions about it, like I have to be flexible and I have to get into a handstand. I'm like, no, not at all.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. I mean, there should be spaces for that, and I think yoga can be a really good exercise, but it's not really for exercise too. It is like you said, calming your mind,
Yeah,
integrating body, mind, and spirit.
yeah,
And it has so much philosophy. And so if we really love yoga, whether we're a teacher or practitioner of yoga, we should learn more about it,
right,
and have some respect for where it came from and why.
right. I always tell them it's not a workout, it's a work in.
Oh, that's a great word. I love that.
Yeah. Number three, what inspired you to create and offer the Go Pro with the Reiki membership program?
Yes, so it's not a membership program, just to say it's a mentorship program.
Mentorship.
Um and that's totally fine. Um so I felt very unsupported in my journey with
Mhm.
Reiki. Like I always felt like I was just kind of in the forest of my own intuitive experience. I felt very drawn and called to both Reiki and yoga, but I was complete like flying completely blind on how to make a business, how to price my services, how to find clients, how to build a website. I had to self-learn so much about Reiki, not just Reiki, and I wish I could be spending all my time doing just Reiki or yoga or whatever, but unfortunately, I spent a lot of time marketing. I spent a lot of time uh, building systems. I spent a lot of time on my email list. I spent a lot of time writing, which is all good exercises for me. And of course, I'm learning from that too. So it's good soul work in its own way. But I just really felt like there was a deep need to have more mentorship in the process and the journey becoming from, taking Reiki 3, really feeling inspired to offer Reiki as either a career path or, just something that you do on the side. And I didn't see anybody else really offering that. And I think we can see if we look back at Reiki in Japan and the Japanese culture, like you would have never been given the green light go to be a Reiki practitioner with just taking one course. Like they have this kind of cultural expectation of apprenticeship, of continuing to learn and grow from a teacher from a period of time. Now, that can also be gatekeeping, that can also be abusive. So I want to name that. But I think that there is a healthy need for people to be supported on the journey to become practitioners. And that is really the inspiration for the GoPro with Reiki mentorship program. So it's a 12-month container. I teach you how to align your business with nature. So it's built on 6 different modules that we repeat, and each of the modules correlate with the 6 healing elements. And I connect that back to some of the origins of Reiki. So really try to bring forward more of that Japanese perspective in the course as well. But of course, just also being in community and making time every month, couple times a month, to be in the Reiki practice, to be together and working through our challenges as Reiki practitioners. It's been really awesome, Tracy, to see some of the graduates and what they're doing now after the program, and just see the inner transformation that has been happening. It's awesome.
Beautiful. I love that. In the system that I studied of Azui Rahiho, we had a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 made you a master practitioner. And I had to
Mhm.
apprentice for an entire year to become
Mhm.
a teacher in that lineage.
Yeah.
Quite
I think
interesting.
that's interesting. That's cool. I mean, that's awesome that you did that, and it's awesome that your teacher set up
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
support you,
Yeah. And
because I think oh, go ahead.
we had things like you had to create a Reiki talk. You had to do so many hours of Reiki sessions. You had to read books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool. Cool, cool, cool. And I'm
So
sure that really supports you as a practitioner today, right? I mean,
I think it did, yeah. And so that kind of helped me. And I was able to audit several classes. So I was able to see what worked in doing the trainings. And from
mhm,
that lineage, we had to write our own manual. So we had to take that information and create our own manual.
mhm.
So it was
Yeah,
diverse. So, yeah.
interesting. Cool.
So that was our last question. As we've been talking, is there something that you've forgotten or something you want to share? The floor is yours.
Oh, well, I just can't really, I mean, I think coming back to the Reiki Business Summit, I really wanted to spend more time talking about that. Felt bad we just mentioned it in the middle of it. My kid says that. He loves me. Yay. But no, the Reiki Business Summit, I'm just really excited for this gathering. And it's just having been a part of it last year and then participated in it the year before. It's just so good for us to come together. The light that we shine and share together in community, it's life-giving, and it will supercharge you and super empower you. So I'm excited about it and really excited to be there with you, Tracy.
And here's the information again. It's April 18th to the 19th. It's 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Christian Stone and our buddy Christian does also have a podcast as well. So check that out if you're interested. All right. Where can we find you again to get in touch?
So you can find me on the Reiki Healing Society, all one word.com. You can find me on Facebook, Reiki Healing Society, or the Facebook group. And then you can find me on Instagram as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carrie, for joining me on this journey. All that you're doing, all the magical and wonderful things, and finding time to join me on this journey. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, my beautiful listeners, if you want your question featured on the podcast, reach out, www.readysetreiki.com. Check me out on social media, and maybe your question will be featured on the podcast. I'm Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.